Okay, so today we're going to talk about creating templates in OpenRoads. Templates are a lot like um, we talked about using templates last time. This time we're going to create our own. We're going to do that by taking existing templates and altering them. We're going to create our own simple templates, and we're also going to create more complex templates, which is just adding simple templates together to make a more complex one. This is a more detailed uh, design. So right now I've got line work shown on a roadway, um, and if you look in the 3D view, you'll notice that there's only one thing in the 3D view. That's the geometry, the alignment, because it has a 3D. It is a 3D element. It has a vertical associated with it. These lines are just 2D. Are just 2D. It's just 2D line work. Let's get into the. Let's jump straight to creating the template. Whenever you create a template, or whenever you're working in a template library, you want to make sure that you're in the L drive. It does by default go to the C drive. It also by default goes to metric. So that's every time you open up the program. I haven't figured out how to make it stop doing that, but as soon as I do, I'll let everybody know. And hopefully, I can just do it to where it doesn't. Nobody has to worry about anything. But make sure you're in the project folder, not the C drive, and we'll create a new template folder. So it's already got quite a few things. This is just a copy of what comes from the C drive, and I copy it into the project folder. That way we can create and manipulate the components that are already here. So we'll create a new folder. We'll call it training demo. And inside of that, we will create a new template. The first one we're going to do is pavement. Good to already have. So, like I said, they've already got existing components. We can use what they have and alter it to what we need. We'll go with concrete with an aggregate base. It's going to be undivided. It's going to be one lane. Whenever we're bringing a component, we want to make sure that our steps are set to 1 and that apply fixes is turned off. That's just a preference of mine. What it does is it adds left and right to each point that you add, and it can get a little messy if you're not careful. So I go without it, and you literally just take it, drag it, and drop it. And since we want a left and a right, we're going to do a mirror, and we'll place it wherever we want. These points will be referenced off of a. We do want to make a point that it's referenced off of. Right now it's just 0, 0, but we want to have an actual point there. So we'll create a new component, be a null point, put it there at 0, 0. It did name this point. It names every point that it comes in, but for some reason it names it as a space, and you can't tell that it's there. So, but it is there, and you need to rename it anyways. So we'll hit apply and close. Take this point, we'll rename it to inside edge of pavement right, and we'll constrain it to the PGL. We'll have a 12-foot horizontal, and we'll do a slope from the PGL at 2%. We also want to add horizontal feature constraint. That way, if we have a left turn bay or a turn bay and the pavement moves off of that 12-foot offset, it will follow along if it knows what to look for. So we have to have, we'll select pavement, we'll do edge of pavement inside, apply, oh, and we also want to add a range to it. That way it doesn't go over to the other side and look for edge of pavement on that side as well. So give it a reasonable range, apply, close. We'll do that to all the top points. So inside edge of pavement, left, horizontal, PGL, it's going to be a -12, slope, 2, horizontal feature constraint, pavement, inside, apply, close, 2 more, outside edge of pavement, left. It's set currently off of this point, which works fine unless this point moves. And we just talked about how we're going to follow a turn bay. So if this were to move and follow that turn bay, this would stay at a 12-foot offset. We don't want that. It would just follow it around. So we want to make sure that it stays at an offset from the PGL. Slope's going to be 2. And this is going to be 2-lane roadway, so 36. And horizontal feature constraint, outside, apply, close. Last one, outside edge of pavement, right, constraint to the PGL, and 36, feature constraint, pavement, outside, apply, close. And so we have created our first template. So make sure that we save it and close it. And like I said, we want to break it into smaller, more manageable sections. So we'll just, I like to do the roadway by itself. So we'll name this pavement. Now we bring in our other references. It's always a good idea to bring in the references and then set your active terrain. Setting active terrain allows you to see it in 3D. And now we will create our corridor. So we created a template. Templates go inside corridors. You can't have a template outside of a corridor. So if you're going to be creating a 3D model, it has to have a new corridor. We'll set the baseline as our center line. Yes, active profile. We'll call this corridor is going to be called pavement. And this comes in handy later. So make sure that you're naming things and that you're naming it unique and make it obvious to what it is. Don't get too into like code of things. You can type out full sentences if need be, but don't do that. So it created our corridor, which is this yellow outline. Now it's asking what kind of template do we want to use on the inside. So we'll go select the template that we just created. Okay. We'll do it from the beginning to the end. And it created our 3D model. Whenever you create a 3D model, it will put it in the 2D view on top of it. You just turn that off and make it a little cleaner looking. You'll notice that it draws in our edge of pavements, and but it didn't follow our turn base like we had wanted, because we had told it we wanted it to follow something, but we didn't tell it where it was. So we need to give it a corridor reference. Whenever it's asking to locate the corridor, it's these yellow handles. Yellow handles are the corridors, the purple dash is the template, but we're looking for the corridor. Locate the first reference. Not that one. Undo that. Try that again. Locate the corridor. Locate our reference. Turn off our geometry so I can see it a little bit better. This one and this one. Reset to complete. And we got turn base, and it looks like I didn't set the range on one of them. So let's go back into the template. See which one I did that on. Looks like it's this one. It is. Apply close. Just double check the rest of them while we're here. Apply close. 15. Apply close. Huh. Didn't do it on it. Anyway. Alright. So save it. Yes. And we saved it and nothing happened. That's because we updated the library, but we didn't tell the corridor that we had done that. So you can go into, click the template, and synchronize with the library. Now we have our two turn bays. But this one, you can see it's a little more jagged than we'd want, because it's setting every 10 feet is where it's setting that template and connecting the dots. If you want to do it more than that, or at a specific location like we want to here, you can add a key station. It'll ask for the corridor, and it asks where you want to put it. I want to put it at this radius of return. If I were to change this radius of return, this point would move with it, but you can't delete this curve and then create another curve. It won't remember that, but you can go into the line work file and change this to a different radius, and it will follow that. We also need a median opening, because we don't have this big open area here. So we'll go back to the templates, and again, call it median opening. And again, we will just use what we currently have available. Step 1. There, 0. And we'll change these offsets. 0. Apply close. 0. Apply close. File, save, close. Now we can take that template, add a new template drop to our corridor, and we're going to use the median opening. We'll set it from median nose to median nose, and now we have median opening. Next, we want to create the curb, and we're going to have some sidewalk, and then finally a ditch tying back into the existing ground. So we'll go back to templates. We will create this one, we'll create the curb, new template, text dot, curb gutter, type 2. They have one very similar, came with OpenRoads. They call it type 1. Do it every time. They call it type 1. And it's very similar to what we want, except for it's not 2 foot long. It's a little bit longer than that. So you'd go and look at the standard and you'd find out that this needs to be 16/12. Or is it 15/12? 16, 16 over 12, 6. And we're going to use a slope at -2. Apply close, and this is 2 inches back. Apply close, and this is 5. You can check to make sure that its offset should be 2 from the edge of pavement, or from that point. That's not the tip. That's not necessarily the edge of pavement, but it is in this template. Apply close, and I did it in the wrong thing. So oh no, I didn't. File, save. We also want to create a sidewalk. We'll do this from scratch. So new component, going to be a constrained component, and ask us what the sidewalk, what to name it. We're going to call it sidewalk, and what kind of feature it is. It is a concrete feature. It'll be sidewalk, and I didn't mean to click down there, but finish. Let's relocate the origin point. Oops. And the first point is going to be sidewalk, top, face. We do want to set a feature definition on this, and what this does for a point, setting a feature definition, will draw the 2D line in the, we'll draw the line work in the 2D file, as well as the 3D file. So we go to template point, sidewalk, front, top. Apply, close. Sidewalk, top, back. Template point, sidewalk, top, back. We're going to do a 5-foot sidewalk, and we're going to do a slope from here of 1.5. Apply, close. Go to the next one. Sidewalk, bottom, back. I'm going to set that five inches below. Oh, no, that was horizontal. Now, we'll do 5 inches below. 5 divided by 12. This will be sidewalk depth. Apply, close, and sidewalk, bottom, face. Zero from here, and minus 5 inches from here. Sidewalk depth. Apply, close. We also want to create a slope coming off of this sidewalk. This is a, let's move this back to 0, 0. So we'll set a new component. This one's going to be an end condition. End condition is a little bit more, it's almost exactly the same as constrained, except for it'll look for a active model, or it'll look for something that you tell it to, basically. So we'll start from here, go here, finish. This will be the hinge point. And apply, close. And this will be our fill tie. We'll set the feature definition as grading and fill tie. Can be a. I prefer to do vertical horizontal. That's 4, 1. Nope. -1, 4. And see, you get a handful of more options. So we will set this to end condition is infinite. Apply, close. We want to change this because right now it's saying it's sidewalk. It's not sidewalk. It's fill slope. Change that from that to grading. And we'll do a grass. And this is where you can tell it what to look for. You can look for a terrain model or another model, another OpenRoads model. You can tell it to look for quite anything, but most useful for slopes is fill model or terrain models. We'll use the active. Apply, close. We need to do the same thing. That's why it's doing that. Cut slope. This is grading. Grass. From here to here. Finish. Cut tie. We'll change that to template point. Grading. Cut tie is there. And now we can test it. Make sure everything works as we hope it does. It's saying our priorities are out of whack because we're telling it to go do two things, but we're saying to do it at the same time. They have the same priority. Change one of them to not one. And we'll test it with our hypothetical terrain model. The fill one works, but it's the cut one stops. So I must not have set that to infinite. That's the problem. Alright, now that works as intended. So now, instead of creating a template for each one, we're going to add them all together in a more complex template. We'll call this curb, sidewalk, slope. Do this on the right side. I like to break it up in the left and right, just another way of breaking it off into pieces. So we do this by adding our pieces together. And then our sidewalk over here. And we'll constrain this to the back of the curb. It'll be 4-foot berm. That looks good. With a slope in the back of the curb, 1.5. Close. We need a grass berm in between. We'll also have a grass berm behind. Name that one correctly. 4-to-1 slope. there. We'll constrain it to the back of the sidewalk. A 2-foot berm. 1.5 slope. Apply close. Add the line work in between the two. Finish. And let's test it before we run it. And we'll try drawing it. And everything looks like it's working as it should. Apply close. File. Save. Close. Let's create a new file for our new model that we're going to create. We'll call this ends right. We need to bring in our reference files. Open. Set active terrain model. View in 3D. And create our new corridor. It's going to be off the baseline. Yes, active profile. Ends right. And it asks what template we want to use. I want to use this one. Okay. And we'll go from beginning to end. And we brought in our new model. Notice that it came in on the center line. We told it to come in on the center line, but it needs, because it needs a 3D element to stick to, and I like to use the center line as our base, but we want it to show up on our edge of pavement. So we create a point control, locate the corridor. We're going to do it from the beginning to the end. Ask you for the point, so we're going to start from the edge of pavement, which is the start of that curb. We're going to use both vertical and horizontal. We're going to tie it to a corridor feature. You can tie it to other things. We're going to tie it to a corridor feature. It's going to ask what corridor we want to tie it to. We want to tie it to the pavement corridor. That's why we name these things. And then what feature in that corridor feature, set pavement. You can scroll in, find it, or you can go click on it. Click on the actual line work that you want to use. Click through to accept. And it creates our sidewalk with our slope on the back and curb. But you'll notice that it goes right through the middle of our proposed cross street. So we got one more template to make. Save the best one for last. New template. Call this blank. And that's it. That's all that goes in that template. Add this template to corridor. I'll ask where to set it. We'll set it from the beginning, or from radius of return to other radius of return. And that cuts that section right out of there so that we can model it with our cross section, or our cross street when we do it later. You can go through and look at all the views that we've created. We've created a profile. We can take that profile along the tie-in. See what happens. It is broken here. That's and can look at cross-section views. So those are all very simple examples of templates that we can make, but that gives you the, I think you can see that you can make very complex or very intricate templates as you need to. And we can do that either by altering the existing ones that we already have, creating our own simple ones, or combining a bunch of them to make a more complex one. But that's the basics of it. If you have any questions, you can ask me later. I'm more than happy to help you go through these things, or if you have something that you're working on, create the model for it. So that's all I've got. Thanks. If you have any questions on why I used it, what I was using, or how to use it, let me know, and we'll get it figured out. All right, thanks.